we saw there's a machlekes Rishonim about mitzvah of Einik Shabbos, whether it's a deraisa or the Rabbanon. Some of you think Einik Shabbos is just a concept. Kavod Shabbos Kodesh, you eat the food. But really Einik Shabbos is a mitzvah deraisa. According to many Rishonim, it's mitzvah deraisa. We saw that the Ramban in Parshas Emor learns it's a deraisa. Rashi as well also learns that it's a deraisa. The Targum Yonis and Ben Azil in the pasuk of Shamru Bnei Yisroel as a Shabbos, Lasos as a Shabbos. He learns Lasos as a Shabbos means to make delicacies for Shabbos. Einik Shabbos. Lasos as a Shabbos he translates to mean Lamevet Tafnuka de Shabbata, to make good food for Shabbos. Lasos Shabbos. That's the deraisa according to the Targum Yonis and Ben Azil. The Uraim learns it's halacha Moshe Sinai. Many Rishonim will learn that it's a deraisa. They just argue where the makar is, where the source is. But mitzvah Einik Shabbos is a deraisa. But we saw the Mishnah Berurah as machriya that it's only medivrei soifrim. It's from the pasuk of Karosel Shabbos Einik, which is a pasuk in Yeshaya. So therefore, Mishnah Berurah says it's only medivrei Kabbalah. Okay. Now there's an interesting bir halacha I want to share with you. Bir halacha says, what if a guy only has $10 in his pocket? Either has a choice. He either could buy food for Shabbos, or he could pay the taxi driver. He just is leaving the taxi. He only has $10. Either should he tell the taxi, listen, I'll pay you after Shabbos. I'm going to use this $10 to buy food for Shabbos, L'kavod Shabbos, to be kind of the mitzvah of Einik Shabbos, or should he pay the taxi driver? So the Mishnah the Bir Halacha says, of course you pay the taxi driver because it's the lav leisol and pula sacher. You have to pay your worker the same day. So it's a deraisa. Whereas Einik Shabbos is only a different Kabbalah. But what do you do according to the Poskim that learn, the Rishonim that learn, it's a deraisa? So Bir Halacha says, still you should give it to the taxi driver. Why? Because there's an essay in the Lois essay. There's an essay of B'yoy Me'titein Schoroi, pay him on time, and also a Lois of leisol and pula sacher. Verse in Asay of Einik Shabbos. So which one is stronger? Paying the taxi driver. That's an Elois Asay. Okay. Now, is one mechuyev to borrow money for this mitzvah? Are you mechuyev to borrow money for the mitzvah of Einik Shabbos? The guy doesn't have money. So you have to borrow money. So listen to this Gemara. The Gemara in Beit Daf Tezvav at Beit says that the Rebbe Shalom promises, he says, Bonai, my children, lovu alai, borrow money for this mitzvah, ani parei, I'll pay back. The Gemara learns that from a pasuk. So seemingly, if a person doesn't have money, finds himself broke, he should go and borrow money from a friend to be mekayim the mitzvah Einik Shabbos. That's what's mavur in the Gemara. Tosfos asks a very strong question there. Tosfos says, what do you mean you should borrow money? There's a Gemara elsewhere. The Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva says if someone doesn't have enough money to buy all the food for Shabbos, the lashon is asay Shabbat chachol, treat Shabbos like a weekday. It's better don't come on to anybody else. Just do with what you have. Piece of bread, 2 sudas. You don't have to do gimel sudas, shalosh sudas. You're not mechuyev extra fish or meat. Just do with what you have, so you shouldn't have to come out to other people. So Tosfos says, what do you mean? Why doesn't he borrow money? The Gemara just says you have to borrow money for the mitzvah Einik Shabbos. But Tosfos answers a very interesting thing. He says like this. He says that Gemara discusses when the guy doesn't have what to pay back from. What does it mean? If he doesn't have what to pay back from, and what's this Gemara talking about? He does have what to pay back from, so let him use this money to go buy food for Shabbos. So it doesn't mean that he has money to go buy food for Shabbos. It means he has a mashkin. He has something in his house which he can use for collateral when he borrows money from somebody else. So there, if he has mashkin, then he should go borrow money. Hashem says, listen, you borrow money, give the mashkin to the other guy. I promise you're not going to have to sell that mashkin. You'll be able to get it back, and I'll provide money from elsewhere to pay back the malva. The guy who lent you the money. Whereas Rabbi Akiva discusses, you don't even have a mashkin, you have nothing. So if you have nothing, there's no haftacha. There's no haftacha. There, Hashem never promises if you have nothing to go and borrow money from somebody else. If you don't have a way to pay back, you don't even have a mashkin, there, of course, you shouldn't borrow money. Why not? Hashem can't provide the money for someone who doesn't even have a mashkin. Why doesn't he borrow money? Why doesn't he borrow money even... What's the pshat in Tosfos? Why can't a person borrow money for Einik Shabbos even if he doesn't have a mashkin to use for collateral? So the Sfas Emes says a very interesting thing. The Sfas Emes says over there, he says that a person could rely on Hashem's avtacha when it comes to his business. But don't be a big bal bitachon on someone else's cheshbon. You have nowhere to pay back from. You don't even have mashkin, right? You don't see anywhere in the near future a possibility of paying back this fellow, and you're going to borrow money. Why? Because you're a great Baal B'tachon, because Hashem will pay him back. Hashem says you can't use the Haftacha of Hashem when it comes to somebody else. You know, we're all big Baal B'tachon when it comes to other people's business. You know, Rabbi Yoel says a story. He says that one time he left his apartment, and he walks out of his apartment, and he sees a fellow, little kid, who was walking down the stairs, and he fell down the entire staircase. And he knew the kid, it was his neighbor, and he says, "Oi, Meirul, you fell down." Right? He picks him up, and he runs outside, and he hails a taxi, and he's trying to hail a taxi, and he can't find a taxi, and he's running to the corner with the kid. And from afar, he sees this old lady walking towards him, and she sees that Reb Shalom is in a bahola. He's like all scared, and she starts telling him, "Reb Shalom, B'tochen, don't worry, everything will be okay, everything will be okay." So as she gets closer, Reb Shalom says she realized that it was her own grandchild. Oh, it was her grandchild, oh, Shrek. She started going crazy. So Reb Shalom says he learned the lesson that on someone else's cheshbon, when it comes to somebody else, you can be a big Baal B'tochen. When it comes to your own things, oh, B'tochen out the window. So that's what Fasem says. Fasem says, of course, there's a Haftoch of Hashem that you could borrow money and Hashem will pay back, but that's only if you have yourself a mashkin with what to rely on to pay back this fellow. But if you have nothing, don't be Baal B'tochen on someone else's cheshbon. But the Goyen, interestingly, says, no, it's not considered irresponsible. Even if you have no mashkin, you have nowhere to pay back from, nothing, you could still borrow money from someone else for the mitzvah of Hilchos Shabbos. Very interesting. And the Mishnah Berurah passes like that. Mishnah Berurah seems, nobody has a Mishnah Berurah in front of them, but the Mishnah Berurah says, the Lashon Mishnah Berurah is, Mishnah Berurah says the reason why Rabbi Akiva says that you should do with what you have, because Ein Yochel Lahasig, you can't get a halva. But if you can get someone to lend you money, even if you don't have a mashkin, Mishnah Berurah is mavur, then it's okay. But it comes to the Sharatzian says it's not so simple. Sharatzian says, make sure that you have a plan of how to pay back the guy before you borrow money. Don't totally rely on this haftacha, because again, for this Fasambis' reason, don't be a big Baal B'tochen to someone else's cheshbon. And then he finishes off, "V'nira da'akoyla fi inyan." Everything is according to the inyan, which means that if you have a plan, right now I have no money, I don't have a mashkin, but I know that in 5 days from now I might get a job. It looks good, possibility looks good at getting a job, and I'll have money then. Then you could rely on the future. But without anything, the Sharatzin doesn't seem to like that you should borrow money from someone else, even though there's haftacha from Hashem that Hashem will pay him back. Don't go and borrow money from someone else if you don't have a plan to pay back yourself. Okay, that's that. There's another halacha. It's really Gemara Baba Kama. The Gemara Baba Kama says that there were 10 takanas, the end of Perik Merubah. There were 10 takanas that Ezra was misakin. And one of them was, Mechapsim b'chamishi b'Shabbos. That you should wash your clothing on Thursday. L'kavod Shabbos. There's a big machloikis, the Mogen Avram de Le'Yarabah, the machloikis HaPoskim, what exactly was the takana here of Ezra? Ezra says, it's pretty straightforward in the Gemara, Mechapsim b'chamishi b'Shabbos. But why? Why should one wash his clothing on Thursday, L'kavod Shabbos? So there's two ways to understand it. The Le'Yarabah says, because a person needs clothing, L'kavod Shabbos. So make sure you wash on Thursday. Why not Friday? Because Friday you need to be punah, you need to be available for other tzrachim on Shabbos. You have to buy food for Shabbos, you have to clean your house for Shabbos. So make sure you're available. In those days, to wash clothing was a whole tirch, was a whole asik. It was a whole big deal. You had to go down to the river or to the lake and wash and scrub. So it used to take up time. So Mela, Ezra says, make sure you do it on Thursday. But why? What's the ikar takana? So to make sure that you have clean clothing for Shabbos. The Mogen Avram says no. Mogen Avram says that wasn't the ikar takana of Ezra. The Ezra's takana was that a person should wash on Thursday, so you shouldn't come to wash on Friday. Nothing to do with washing your clothes l'kavod Shabbos. Ezra was concerned that maybe people are going to start washing on Friday and not have time for Shabbos. So Ezra said, make sure you take care of that Erev on Chamishi b'Shabbos on Thursday. But not because, the Ikar Takana wasn't because Ezra was concerned people should wear nice clothing l'kavod Shabbos. Ezra's concern was people shouldn't be preoccupied with washing clothing on Friday. That was the Ikar Takana. Now what's the nafkamina? There are many nafkaminas lahalacha, and we'll see how we paskin. For example, according to the Le'Yarabah, that Ezra's Ikar Takana was to make sure you have clothing for Shabbos, right? So therefore you have to wash your clothing on Thursday. Why not Friday? Okay, so that's agav. Once we're telling you to wash your clothing l'kavod Shabbos, make sure you do it on Thursday, not on Friday, so you should be available for other tzrachim of Shabbos. So For example, according to the Rabbi, if I want to wash Big Day Chol, other clothing which I'm not going to wear on Shabbos, can I wash it on Friday like Atchilu? Why not? Why not? There's no takana that I can't wash clothing on Friday. It's just that the takana was I should wash the clothing of Shabbos for Shabbos. And they said wash that on Thursday, not on Friday, because you should be available. But there was never an isser to wash clothing on Friday. So a lot of times you have Bachram coming home from yeshiva, right? And they bring their laundry. It's on Friday. So according to the Rabbi, their laundry is for the rest of the week. It's not for Shabbos. So according to the Rabbi, there's no problem. Why? Because there's no isser to wash clothing on Erev Shabbos. The takana was to make sure you have clothing for Shabbos, and therefore they said, do it on Thursday. Whatever clothing you're going to wear for Shabbos, make sure you wash it on Thursday. But if you want to wash Big Day Chayil that you wear during the week on Friday, the Chayil according to the Rabbi is mutter. Magen Avraham says no. Magen Avraham says no. The Ikar takana was make sure you do not wash laundry on Friday. Okay? Because you have to be available for other things on Shabbos. So according to the Magen Avraham, even Big Day Chayil, you're not allowed to wash on Friday. That was the takana. Another nafkamino, for example, would be, let's say someone forgot to wash their clothing on Thursday. They forgot to wash their Shabbos begadim on Thursday. Should you wash it on Friday? According to the Rabbi, why not? The takana was, wash it on Thursday, make sure you wash your clothing on Thursday, l'kavet Shabbos. But was the ikar takana to make sure you have clothing for Shabbos? If you didn't do it on Thursday, of course, do it on Friday. Because the takana was to make sure you have clothing for Shabbos. According to the Magen Avraham, the takana was not to wash clothing on Friday. That was the takana. So then you can't even wash those clothing, l'chayra, according to the Magen Avraham. How does the Mishnah Berurah pass? Mishnah Berurah says like this. Mishnah Berurah brings the Rabbi. Mishnah Berurah says, first the Mechaber says, "Takanas Ezra, she mechapsim begodim b'chamishi b'Shabbos ne'kavet Shabbos." You should wash your clothing on Thursday. So the Mishnah Berurah says, "Hainu k'dei she'lavana b'Shabbos, avaloi be'erev Shabbos, k'dei she'pnui l'sasik b'tzorcha Shabbos." But he quotes the Rabbi. Sharatzini says he's quoting the Rabbi. So he's passing like the Rabbi. That's how he's passing. What about Thursday night, Lail Shishi? Was that included in the takana? It says mechapsim b'chamishi b'Shabbos, wash on Thursday. Now, Thursday night, although we call it Thursday night, in halacha it's already Friday night, right? And Friday night, that we call Friday night, it's already Shabbos night. So Thursday night, which is already not chamishi, right? It's already Lail Shishi. We call it Lail Shishi. So is there an isser? Let's say according to the Magen Avraham, or even according to the Rabbi, like Atchila, don't wash on Friday. That's already Friday. Lail Shishi. It's the night of the sixth day, right? So is that included? So on the one hand, the Gemara says mechapsim b'chamishi. It's not chamishi anymore. It's Lail Shishi. So it should be aser. On the other hand, the reason why we don't wash on Friday is because we should have time to prepare for Shabbos. When does the chiyuv begin on Friday to prepare for Shabbos? It's a pasuk, v'hoye bayoyim hashishi, Friday, right? So since Lail Shishi is not, there's no obligation to prepare for Shabbos and Lail Shishi, it's only a bayoyim hashishi, v'hoye bayoyim hashishi. It says in the pasuk, v'echinos esheyaviu, we should all start preparing. And in the Mechaber, in the Siman Reish Nun, Shulchan Aruch says, Yashkim baboiker bayoyim shishi lachan tzarech Shabbos. Again, it's baboiker bayoyim shishi. That's when it begins the chiyuv. So l'chayra, since there's no chiyuv to prepare yet Lail Shishi, so l'chayra should be able to wash clothing then. Because the whole reason why we're not washing clothing on Friday is to be able to prepare for Shabbos. When does the chiyuv start to prepare for Shabbos? B'yom Shishi. So Lail Shishi should be allowed to do it. Talamaisa, the Chut Shani, the Rizin Karelitz, he says that it's aser. He says even Lail Shishi is aser. And a lot of places can be chaylik, but there's an interesting achra from Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg Shlita. He says depends. Depends whether you're in the winter or the summer. In the winter, especially in Manchester, I guess the days or Fridays are very short, right? So when do people usually start preparing from? Thursday night, Lail Shishi. So since usually people begin then to prepare from Lail Shishi, so then the Isser is chal already to wash your clothing even by Lail Shishi. Whereas in the summer, especially in Manchester, right, the days are so long, Friday is so long, so then people begin on Friday day, so then Lail Shishi is no problem. That's the achra of Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg.
You know, if someone else is doing your needs for you, so that's your shiva bacha, so that kind of applies to them.
Someone else is doing it for you.
Yeah.
Very good question. What if somebody else is doing it for you? Meaning somebody else is not mechuyev, let's say a guy who's not mechuyev to prepare for Shabbos?
No, like shiva bacha, like he's not doing anything himself.
He's not doing anything.
Someone else is preparing his food.
Someone else is preparing his food.
Someone else is doing what his needs, and he...
So very good. A very good question. The answer is that nobody's allowed to do it for you. There's a light plug. For example, let's say you're done with all your preparations for Shabbos. You finished early, right? So now it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. You have everything ready. The cholta's up already. The soup is ready. Everything is ready. The tablecloth is on the table, right? Now you want to begin washing laundry. There's no issue for you, l'chayra. Terence says no, light plug. The same way that's also, the same way also, if somebody happens this Friday not to have to do anything for Shabbos, we also say that it's also, it's light plug. But there's an interesting thing. A cleaner's, right? Someone who has a malacha, his business is to wash laundry, right? That's what he does for a living. He has a cleaner's, he has a laundromat, right? So for him, it's mutter to wash laundry. Why? Because that's his parnasa, that's his business. The Chazal's takana wasn't to answer someone's parnasa. It was just an individual on his own, he should have time to prepare for Shabbos. But if that's his parnasa, that's what he does every single day, then of course, Rav Nissen Karelitz, another person can say that it's totally mutter. For that it's mutter.
If for whatever reason you get to Friday and you don't have anything there.
You need clothes for Shabbos.
Yeah, b'diavad, yeah.
So b'diavad, yeah. So we pass on the other rabbi that b'diavad it's okay. There's no issur to wash clothing on Friday. Now, there's a very interesting machlekes haposkim. This you have to know whether this whole issur is negeya nowadays. Because nowadays we all have washing machines. It takes what, a half hour to wash a load, right? In those days, Ezra was masakin the takana. Why? Ezra was masakin the takana because it took a whole day to wash laundry. You had to go down to the river, scrub and do whatever not, and then hang it up. Right? And it took forever. So there was a chashash. You might not be able to prepare for Shabbos if you wash laundry on Friday. But nowadays, it takes 3 minutes to put in a load, a half hour to wash it, and then take it out. What's the big deal? So for that reason, many poskim say that nowadays it's not negeya. And there's no problem of ein bezdin mevatel divrei bezdin chavere elam kein godol haimene b'chochma v'menyin. Right nowadays, what are we going to say? We're going to say we're mevatel the takon of Ezra. How can we do that? The answer is we're not being mevatel because Ezra gave a time. The reason was because we should be panoi, we should be available on Friday to prepare for Shabbos. But if we know that we're going to be available because washing laundry takes a half hour, and that's the derech to wash laundry nowadays, so there's no bittul. For that, maybe the Takana was never said, and that's how many person can paskin.
If he gave a time, so why did he say loy plug?
Loy plug is when the derech of the ganze Welt, the whole world, washes laundry and it takes them a whole day, and you happen to have finished all your tzrachim on Shabbos, that's a loy plug. You're not different than anybody else. But if the whole world washes laundry like that...
No, but if you got a tam didn't apply to yourself, so then Ezra wasn't sacking it for yourself. Therefore, you shouldn't say loy plug. You should say that it should be water.
You shouldn't say loy plug by an individual either. In those days. So the emes is, because of your taina, because of this taina what you're saying, is the Mishnah Halachos, Rabbi Menashe Klein, he says, this is one of his tainas to say that even though nowadays we have these washing machines, it's still usher because of loy plug. Just like we say an individual loy plug, we say that it's usher also when you have washing machines nowadays. That's when he paskins la halacha. Very interesting. He says another chashash also. He says the reason why it's usher, he says it makes up his new gzeira. The person don't like it. He says because maybe the washing machine is going to break down. We find that Chazal didn't want you to take your haircut before mincha because maybe the scissors are going to break and you're going to be busy with it and you're going to miss mincha. He says, here too, maybe the washing machine is going to break and that's till you call someone to fix it and you're going to be busy with it a whole Friday. So that's why he says that nowadays you also shouldn't wash laundry on Friday. But many places can argue with the svaras, both svaras, and they say no, because nowadays the derech is to wash laundry with a washing machine, there's no problem. But there's an interesting Arletzian, the Rabbi Yoel, he says that it's only if you also have a dryer. But if you don't have a dryer, since drying your laundry is an integral part of doing laundry, so you'll be busy with hanging up your stuff, your clothing. And therefore, if you want to wash laundry, according to Rabbi Yoel, you have to have a dryer, washer, and a dryer. In Eretz Yisroel, people don't have dryers, and I just came to Manchester, I realized people don't have dryers here either. I don't know. In America, I'm saying everybody has a dryer. It's a normal thing. It's a common thing. But many places can argue, they say that no, drying is not a part of washing laundry. And the Mela, if you want to wash your laundry on Friday, because you're doing it with a washing machine, then it's okay. Reb Shlomo Zalman, Shmir Shabbos Kel Choso, he brings Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, a very interesting thing. He says because nowadays we wash with a washing machine, it's okay, but he makes up another gzeira. We don't find it in Chazal anywhere. This is Shlomo Zalman's Chiddush. He says that it's still usher to do it anyways, even though you're doing it with a washing machine, it's still one shouldn't wash laundry on Friday, because nowadays when we take a load, we wash basically all our stuff from the entire week, right, in one load. We don't just wash one shirt that we need for Shabbos, we wash everything. So he says it's a zilusa de Shabbos, it's a zilzul for Shabbos, that you're busy with tzarchei chayil, with everything you need during the week. All your clothing of the week, you're putting it on Friday, Erev Shabbos, to wash it on Friday. Shlomo Zalman doesn't like it. Shlomo Zalman says, therefore one should refrain from washing laundry Erev Shabbos, unless, of course, he's only washing whatever he needs for Shabbos. That's for sure no problem. If someone forgot to do it on Thursday, even the katchila, since nowadays we're washing with washing machines, even the katchila, it's okay to wash laundry as long as it's only the big day Shabbos. According to Shlomo Zalman. Going to one more thing. The Ramah says, Noig and Lolush, Kadesh Yechal Bebayis, last one Lachem of Tzelim Shabbos V'Yontiv. A person should make challah on Friday. That the women should make challah on Shabbos, for Shabbos, Kavod Shabbos on Friday. Now, the Ramah says, V'hu Mekavod Shabbos V'Yontiv, V'ein Loshanas. It's Mekavod Shabbos for a woman to bake challah on Friday. There are two reasons given in the Ramah. One is to be mafresh challah. There's a mitzvah to be mafresh challah. Why on a Friday? We'll see in a second. There's a mitzvah to be mafresh challah on Friday. And another reason is because of Kavod Shabbos. It's a Kavod Shabbos to go and bake challah for Shabbos Kodesh. Right? So why the first reason? Let's tackle the first reason first. Why is there a mitzvah to bake challah and be mafresh challah on Friday? What's the mitzvah? Hafrashas challah is a mitzvah any day, even on Sunday. What's Friday? Mishmura says a very interesting reason. Mishmura says because on Friday that's when Chava enticed Adam Rishon to be over and eat from the Eitz Hadas, and Adam Rishon is called Chalasai Shal Olam. So because she was ma'abed the Chalasai Shal Olam, since she caused Misa for Adam, right, who's the Chala of the world, right? I think they explain why is Adam Rishon called the Chalasai Shal Olam, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Mafresh Adam, he was the epitome of the Bria. He's called Chalasai Shal Olam, he was the Hafrashas Chala, so to speak, he was the Kodesh of the entire world, he was the purpose. So he says, so therefore, the wife is supposed to be mafresh challah on Friday to be mechaper on the challah that she lost on Friday, which was Yom Shishi. That was the time when she did Avera. And the other reason is because Kavod Shabbos V'Yontiv. There are two reasons why a woman should take challah on Shabbos on Friday. The Kavod Shabbos. One is the Kavod Shabbos, and the other is to be mafresh challah. Now, a very interesting shayla comes up. Let's say, many women don't bake so much challah. You know how much challah you have to bake in order to be mafresh challah? There's a shear, there's a lot of dough. So usually you have a family eating challah on Shabbos, you need 3-4 challahs for the entire Shabbos, and in order to be mafresh challah, you have to bake 10 challahs. So what should we do? Should she go ahead and bake 10 challahs now for the next 3 weeks? And this way she could be mafresh challah with a bracha on Erev Shabbos, but then she's losing out, she's not going to bake challah for the next 2-3 weeks, or should she never bake challah with a bracha and just bake challah, 2-3 challahs every single Friday afternoon for that Shabbos? In other words, which reason is stronger? The hafrashas challah is stronger with a bracha, or the kavod Shabbos, the bake challah, the kavod Shabbos? You understand the shayla? Let's say she has a very small family, and every Friday she only needs 2-3 challahs for Shabbos. But to be mafresh challah, she'll have to make 10 challahs. Once she makes 10 challahs, then she'll have enough for the next 3 weeks, and then she'll never make challah the next 3 weeks. What should she do? So Reb Chaim Kanievsky, the Derech Sicha, earlier man asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky the shayla. He says that the hafrashas challah is adif. She should bake once with a bracha, and then eat those challahs from the freezer, I guess, for the next 3 weeks until she bakes again challah. But again, many poskim are cholok on Reb Chaim, and they say that no, the ikar reason is kavod Shabbos. Hafrashas challah is a side thing, Ibda chalasah shalom, that's an inyan that the Mishnah Berurah brings down, but not that you should take away from kavod Shabbos. If you have an opportunity to be kavod Shabbos every single Friday and bake challah, then that's what you should do. So Bez Hashem, when you get married or whatever, you have a wife, and you have to ask a shayla, what's more adif? Okay, we'll stop over here, it's late.